Today I'll show you how to cut and assemble this fun Halloween card. Hi guys, my name is Omar from Awesome SVGs, and today I will be showing you a couple different techniques on a Crega Design Space to create this fun pop-up card. Halloween is one of my favorite festivities, and I decided to create this card. I've had this idea on my mind for quite a while now, and it has a rotating mechanism that brings Dracula out of the coffin. It looks complicated, but it's really easy to make. I'll guide you through the file preparation process and also the assembling process of the card. So let's get started. Okay, so first thing you need to do is click on your file and upload it to Design Space and add it to your canvas. Once the file is on your canvas, you'll see that it's made out of different elements. First thing is to click anywhere on the design and then click on Ungroup. That will leave you with different elements that we will change to create this card. Okay, so the front panel is composed of different shapes. Click on Ungroup to release the clouds and these circles on the center. This is supposed to be a moon. I made it orange just to go with the color palette of the card. And next you have the words Happy Halloween that are meant to be foiled on this front panel. You can also use a pen to draw on the front panel, but I decided to go with the foil because the cardstock was very dark and I wasn't going to achieve a good look with a dark pen. I could have used maybe a white gel pen, but I decided to go with the foil. So first things first, click on the Happy and Halloween words by holding the Shift key and clicking on the layers. You select both, and then go to the operation and change it from basic cut to foil. I used a medium tool for this. Now for the words to stay on top of the front panel, you need to select all three together. You can do this by clicking on each layer and holding the Control key, or you can also click and draw a rectangle around all three of them. That includes all three of them, and then they will be selected. Once they are all three selected, click on Attach, and if you go to make it, you'll see that the foiled words are attached to your front panel. Okay, next, let me put this out of the way. Next, you have the lid of the coffin and the coffin itself. Now for the coffin, we will need to change a couple of things. So let me put it over here and zoom in so we can see better. The coffin has different elements. You can right click and click on Ungroup, or you can do that by clicking on the Ungroup icon on the layers panel here, and you will be left with three different elements. This is the rod of the coffin, and then you have the coffin itself. And the coffin has two layers. The top layer is a layer that can be, listen to me, can be either drawn with a pen, can be foiled, and you can also deboss it if you want to, if you have the debossing tool. I went with the foil just to match the front panel, and because I wanted to add a little bit of shine to the card, to the inside of the card. So click on foil and all those lines will be foiled on top of the cardstock, and then you need to attach those foiling lines, those foiled lines to the coffin itself. So click and drag a rectangle around both elements, or click on the title of the layer and then click on Attach, and those foiling layers, that foiling layer will be attached to the coffin. Now there's no need to change anything for the rod, and it will be cut separately. And then let me zoom out. We have the character. Now for the character, there are different options. Let me duplicate this so we don't get it wrong. Okay, let me put this away. There you go. Now for the character, we have a few different options. I provided a colored character that you can print then cut directly. There's no need for coloring with this one. And if you do so, what you need to do is just select it and click on flatten. That will create a print then cut file of the character. If you go to make it, you will see that the character is ready to be printed and cut on your machine. Okay. Now, if you wanna color the character yourself, you can do it in two different ways. One of them is let me select this one. One of them is just changing the top layer. You'll see that it's made out of two layers. The top layer, that is the drawing itself, and the bottom layer, that is the white outline. If you change the top layer, basic operation from basic cut to pen, you can choose any color pen you want. You can do it black, you can do it wine. I did it with a red colored pen. I used a V5 Pilot pen. This is a ball pen. It's a great pen for drawing on cardstock. And I used expressive blending card, and then I colored it using Copic markers. Now, if you don't want to or don't own any pens and you still want to make this with red lines, what you can do is just select both of them and click on flatten, and that will create a print then cut file with red lines on them. Let's go to make it, and you will see that red lines around the image, which is great. Okay, let me cancel this. Now, if you still want to, the lines to be drawn, what you need to do is just change the basic operation for the top layer from basic cut to pen again. Select any color you want. Like I said before, I selected wine. But then you need to, instead of flatten it to create a print then cut file, you will click on attach. And that will attach those drawn lines on top of the white outline around. Okay, so if you click make it, let me do this, you will have two print then cut files. Remember, we flattened this one. The red lines, we flattened them around the white outline. And then this colored print then cut file. And on the second mat, you will have drawn lines on top of the white outline that will be cut. So in summary, you can do this in three different ways. First, by printing the flattened colored image. Second, by coloring flattened outlines. And third, by drawing the outlines and then coloring them later. You just need to do one of these options though. Okay. And then we have the mechanism. This is what moves the character and makes it appear from the back of the coffin. And then you have the card base. The card base has a couple of matted panels, the purple panel and the that dark pink panel. Now you can cut this mechanism out of the same cardstock of the coffin, or the panel, the inside panel of the card. I made it white in this case, just so it was easier for you to see during the assembling of the card. Now that you have everything ready, just go to make it, and you will see all your mats. This is the print then cut. You don't need to do all of them, you just need one of them. Here's the rod of the coffin. Here are the clouds. Here's the inside panels for the coffin lid. Here's the bright orange moon. This was cut in gold, and these are the embellishments for the coffin rod. Here's the mechanism. Like I said before, you can cut the mechanism in the same color of the coffin or in the same color of the card base inner panel. Here's the front panel with the foiled words attached to it. And then a couple matte panels. This is the coffin and the coffin lid with the foiled lines inside. Here is the here's the front panel as well. I mean the inside panel as well. And here are some parts of the coffin. Then you have the card base and also a different panels for the coffin. And finally that bright red circle that's around the moon on the top of the front panel. Once you're ready, click on continue, hook your machine, and cut all your pieces. And then we will go to the assembling part. To color the character, I used a very simple two-tone technique with a lighter shade to create a color blocking, and then a darker shade to create shadows. The eyes, I used a violet color to go with the color palette of the card, and for the skin, I shaded it using a yellow-green tone to kind of make it a little bit creepy, I think. I didn't want it to be very, pink. I also used markers to highlight some of the lines and to refine some of the lines also. And for the coat, I didn't want it to be completely black, so I used a dark brown color. I used a white gel pen to create highlights and to separate the sleeve of the coat from the body. And I also used a clear wink of Stella gel pen to give it some shine. Finish it off with colored pencils for the small details, and you're good to go. When foiling, sometimes the foil sticks to the cardstock in places that you don't want to. I used blue tack. This is a repositionable adhesive, and what you can do is just press it against the foil that you want to come off, and it will. And you can clean it up that way. Now start with the card base, fold it in half and use a bone folder to make that crease very sharp. And if the cardstock breaks, you can always turn it around and leave that fold on the inside. Now for the coffin, there are embellishments that you can cut in different colors. Just glue them following the lines that are foiled on the coffin body. There's a larger square, a larger rectangle, and a smaller rectangle. You can do this in any color that you want. The rod of the coffin, I used a metallic Nina Creative cardstock. This is a very shiny cardstock. I love this one. Just add a few little drops of glue to the ends of the rod and adhere the gold embellishments on the ends. Center that rod on the coffin, and then add a small dot of glue to each end of the rod holder. Sorry for the head on the way. And then you can adhere the holder, that rod holder, to the coffin. The idea is to have one end of the holder on the coffin and the other end on the rod. That way you can kind of lift the rod and give it some dimension. You can use a bone folder to kind of burnish the edges of the foiled cardstock. And then you can lift that rod to give it some dimension. You can also use some double-sided foam tape here to keep it up. Now for the coffin top or the coffin lid, just take the inside panel, the larger inside panel, and fold it following the ends of the cut lines on the corners, just to give it some dimension. And for the center, I used a bone folder to also give it some dimension. Next, add some glue to this top embellishment and glue it on the top of the coffin lid. And then you will add some glue to the edges of the next piece and put a square of foam tape or rectangle of foam tape in the center just to keep it up and give it also some dimension. Glue that piece to the coffin lid and you're good to go. Press all the edges to glue them in place so they don't stick up. Okay, so next we are going to put together the mechanism. If you look close, you will see scoring lines. These are dashes that are cut into the cardstock. So start folding the large piece first. Create only mountain folds on all 3 scoring lines. Then start with the thinner piece. Fold the gluing tab, creating a mountain fold. And then you will see a small scoring line in between the wide and the thin piece. Create a valley fold. And then fold the last gluing tab, creating a mountain fold. For the scoring line that's in the center, you will create first a valley fold, and you will need to align that cut edge to the side of the thinner piece. Next, you will create a mountain fold on the next scoring line, and then you will fold the corner to create kind of like a triangle. Fold it to one side and then to the other. And then you will open up this piece and you will push right in the center to create a valley fold from the corner of the triangle and push it flat. And that's your mechanism. That's your rotating mechanism right there. So it's a mountain fold and a valley fold. Okay, now you need to glue down that free tab that you see right there. So you'll put glue on the triangle that you see right there. You will fold over the free piece. Make sure it's glued together. And here's how it works. That cut line slides right on the edge of the triangle that we folded, creating that rotating mechanism. So you will need to attach your character, matching the corners, and applying glue only to the sides that are left outside the triangle that we folded. So here you can see better. Apply glue to that piece only. Remove the excess so no glue oozes out of those edges. Next, align the character. Make sure the corners of the mechanism and the character match. Wait a couple of seconds for it to dry, and there you go. Now for the inside panels, I just did a very simple inking of the edges just to give it some dimension. And here's a good trick to align the inner panels. What I like to do is use a low tuck tape. That's hard to say. And I align the piece that I want to glue down, and then use a small piece of that low tuck tape. Adhere to the side, crease it with your fingernail, then fold it over. Apply your adhesive. I'm using an HG gun with double-sided adhesive, and then flip it over and glue it down. Remove the low tuck tape very carefully, not to rip to avoid ripping the cardstock. And do the same with the other panel. Flip it over, apply your double-sided adhesive tape, and then fold it over. Glue it down and remove the low tuck tape. You can save this for the front panel as well and other projects. Now align your coffin, the body of the coffin, make sure it's centered, to position the coffin lid. And you can do it like we did before. Make sure it's in place. Use a piece of low tuck tape on top, flip it over, apply some glue. I'm using liquid glue for this. I like liquid glue for these pieces because it reinforces the cardstock. Distribute the glue with your fingers, remove the excess, and glue it down. Once it's glued down, remove the low tuck tape, and you are ready for that. Next, we will adhere the mechanism with the character. So make sure the mechanism is activated and the character is facing the side of the card. That's when the mechanism is closed. Now you will fold that small crease that you see right there until the edges of the gluing tabs are aligned. And those edges have to be aligned with the spine of the cardstock, with the center fold of the card base. And align the edge of the character 1/4 of an inch from the card base edge. Once you're ready, use the same piece of low tuck tape to keep the mechanism in place. Fold over the gluing tab, the small gluing tab, and apply some glue to it. And glue it down to the card base. Do the same with the other gluing tab. This one's a little bit more difficult to glue down. Apply glue to the whole gluing tab because you need this to be very strong. It's a good idea to use liquid glue. I'm using Aleene's Tacky Glue Pen. This is my favorite glue to use. Make sure the edges are aligned with the fold of the card base. Remove the tape. Keep the mechanism flat until the tabs are glued down. And then we only need to glue the tabs to the other side of the card base. So just add glue to the gluing tabs. Remember not to go further, the gluing tabs. They are marked with the folded edge. Add glue, flatten it out, and then close the card shut. Wait a couple of seconds for it to dry, and you're good to go. Now add glue to the gluing tab for the coffin. That is the big square in the front of the mechanism. It's a good idea to use liquid glue, that way it will reinforce the cardstock. You can also cut another piece of the coffin if you want to. Just make sure the coffin is centered. The second piece of the coffin that you can cut is for it to be just a bit more stiff, so it doesn't bend when you activate the card. That's it. Make sure the card closes. Press it, give it a good press so it dries completely flat. And if you're having trouble with your character rotating, sometimes the corner of the character sticks too far out, you can take your scissors and just cut like a little corner of it. It will move better. And finally, for the front panel, I just did a very simple inking of the front panel and some inking of these small pieces. For the clouds, I used a Memento Dewdrop dye ink. It's a good idea to use the corner or the edge of the ink pad to kind of like give a little bit of dimension to those clouds. Next, adhere the front panel to the card base. I used the low tack tape hinge method. So add a little bit of low tack tape, put your double-sided adhesive, flip it over, and you're good to go. Remove the low tack tape, then add your front elements. I put a little bit of double-sided foam tape on the back of the first circle, the large circle, just to give it a little bit more dimension, and then added the small circle on top. Finally, I added the clouds. I used liquid glue for the clouds, for the cloud on the back, and then I had to add a small piece and smaller pieces of foam tape to the cloud on the right to be on top of the moon, to support the left side of the cloud that was hanging from the moon. Okay, so remove the backing of that double-sided foam tape and add some liquid glue to the piece that's in front of the moon. I also decided to do some stamping on the inside of the card. I added this small spider on the corner, and on the outside I stamped several stars in gold. And I also decided to add a couple of bats. So I stamped these little bats using Memento ink and colored them with Copic markers in blue to kind of follow the color palette. I added some highlights and finished them off with some clear wink of Stella. I fuzzy cut them, and I added them using liquid glue to the front of the card. It's a good idea to put some glue on your craft mat, then pick the elements, the small elements, with tweezers, add the glue to the back of the element, and then glue it on your card. I added 3 bats to kind of balance the card out, and I decided that was enough. So you have the front of the card, which is very fun, and then in the inside you have this kind of spooky but fun character that pops from behind the coffin. And that's it. Fun project with a lot of different techniques on your Cricut machine. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget also to hit that bell button next to the subscribe button to be notified each time a new video is uploaded. Here's a couple more videos that could interest you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.